Hello there and welcome back. Indeed, this is Christine Bentley in studio with Sharon Caddy, and we are joined by Tracey Wilen. Tracey is a prominent thought leader and speaker on the impact of technology on society, work, and careers. Welcome, Tracey.
Oh, thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Yeah. Now, Tracey, you have a new book called Employed for Life, 21st Century Trends, and you're going to give us your informed career predictions for 2015 in this digital world. And boy, oh boy, do we need to hear that, and all our listeners too, because we know things are changing, but for those with their eyes on the job market, there are things that really they need to know.
Well, there's so much change, as you say, going on, that what I try to do is narrow it down. And what I did is looked at 3 workforce trends, 3 societal trends, and 3 sector trends that people may not intuitively think about for job creation or job opportunities. Because, as you said, there's just so much change happening in 2015.
So let's start with millennials. And they're concerned about getting a job, but you're saying, maybe they needn't be.
Well, what I see the opportunity from millennials in 2015 is that, we have opportunities for leadership. And let me tell you why. Pew Research has been publishing for a long time about age and, baby boomers. And what they're saying is that the retirement age of 65 is one that people project, and then they move on either to an encore career or something else. And boomers are reaching this at a pace of 10,000 per day. And as a corporation, if you're looking for your next pipeline of leaders, you would look at the next generation, which is Generation X. And this is our group between 33, 34, and 53, 54. But that generation is actually quite small. So the projections are there's not enough Gen Xs to fill the gaps that the baby boomers leave when they exit or do something else. So we need to have leadership developed at a younger age, and that's where our millennials come in. So for 2015, my suggestion to millennials is look for these opportunities. You're a very smart generation. You're a technically advanced generation, and now we need people to step up into leadership roles.
Do you find that in some cases, though, in the research that you've conducted, it's been kind of a alarming trend for people, the older segment of the workforce, who in some cases have been moved out in favor of younger employees, but without that interim period, that crossover period where the mentoring takes place to place those younger people into an ideal situation to be leaders?
Yeah, so you bring up a very good point, which is why companies are saying, I can't wait till someone's in their 40s to start developing them into leaders. I need to actually look for people in their 20s so that I can establish a pipeline. And to your point, my second trend is for the baby boomers is don't view the corporation as the destination. It's a stop. Mm-hmm. So you may be in retirement age in corporate terms, but on your own personal timeline, you may still be wanting career and opportunities. So you have to start looking at the corporation not as a destination, but as one stop in your long career adventure.
Well, Tracey, we, of course, come from the broadcast industry, which has been, downsizing itself in leaps and bounds.
Yes.
So we know exactly what you're talking about. My sister works in the corporate field, and she said she was surprised that I was surprised, or that any of us were surprised in our industry, because she said in the corporate world, every woman who turns 50 on her 50th birthday starts looking behind her shoulder and starts reaching out for other possibilities.
The next step.
Yeah, the next, even if she's only doing it part-time, she's starting to network. She's starting to look.
Yes, and and I wouldn't say it's just women, but yes, I think it is important that people realize that they're a corporation, unlike our parents who said this is the only place you're going to work, is now a stop where you say, okay, what kind of skills and experience can I pick up from this stop? And what kind of contributions can I make? And how can I position myself for the next stop? In 2011, the statistics were people were holding around 11 jobs over their lifetime. most of the people I talk to say, yeah, it's closer to 15 to 18 job stops, and it makes sense. We're living longer. Some say we'll live to 100. Our kids will live to 120. Our work span will now be 50 to 70 years. It makes complete sense that mid-career may be that corporate stop, could be 20 years, but it's like almost like the pit stop in the middle of your career, not the destination.
So when you're talking about people potentially working at 50 different places, what age group are you talking about?
There's, the government statistics was just tracking to see what people's careers were happening in reality. And they did this in 2011, and they did do this in the States, to say what is really happening. And what they just tracked was the average span at that time of someone's career. Now, the age could be any age, right, where you cap it, was around 11 stops. Now, that's a long time ago, really, in dog years.
Yeah.
And so today when I'm asking individuals, what's your experience? Many have said, oh, my goodness, I had 11 stops before I even hit 40, and I'm probably going to have 11 more. So I'm looking with interest to see if we can get another report out there from one of the government institutions that updates the realities. And I think the other reality is how many people are actually working as freelancers, contractors, and temporary workers. Intuit, a high-tech company, did a study factoring in that by 2020, at least 40% of the U.S. workforce anyway would be in some sort of part-time or freelance position. That doesn't mean it's a negative. It just means that this is another reality that's happening in the workforce.
Well, this seems to have become far more. I've noticed everywhere that I've been that it's a very popular trend. I mean, for the corporation in question, it reduces that constant workforce. They don't have the health benefits, et cetera, to pay for. And so, do you see this continuing as a trend as we move forward?
Well, I do. I mean, I think the numbers are growing. I mean, there's freelancers.com. They even have their own union now in different kinds of benefits because it's becoming a reality. The concept of a portfolio career where you map together a series of projects or different employment opportunities to create your own career path. Some of it is done by displacement and transition from firms. Some of it is just people would prefer to have more flexibility in their lives, and now you have this opportunity, mainly because you have more sites now that you can go and find project work, and companies are more open to having freelancers rather than full-time employees.
Now, you talk about software and bots. How do you see them impacting the employment landscape?
I think it's going to become a big deal. A lot of us have talked about outsourcing or hardware, but the reality is it's software. If you think about when you are doing your banking or calling up a credit card, the person you're talking to on the phone is not a person, right? You've been channeled into intelligent software routing systems that figures out your account balance. Do you have debit or credit? Do you need to dispute a payment? And all of this is just intelligent software that is actually replacing a human from walking you through your accounts. And this happens whether you're shopping or you're in the airline buying tickets. And this will continue. I mean, you look now, you have autonomous cars coming out. These are cars that will be driven by software. They will understand mapping and then get smarter and smarter. They understand using sensors and algorithms how to actually drive us without a human being. So this is, as software gets more intelligent, more and more positions will somewhat be displaced or consumed by software.
Well, I think you make mention of, or somebody else makes mention, there's a projection that there may be a demand for 70,000 new drone jobs in the next 3 years.
Right. So for every
that's a lot.
Every time you have a new technology, it displaces jobs, but it also creates new jobs. And drone is one of these new trends. Just all came out of nowhere pretty much, but now we're using drones for military. We're using drones projected for shipping. Now there's even laws, right, around air height, how high drones can fly, and we need people to operate drones. So I look at technology and software as transitioning jobs, but also creating jobs.
Well, we still have more to discuss. Can you stay with us a few minutes longer? We just need to take a quick break.
Thank you, yes.
All right, Tracey Wilen is our guest as we continue to talk about the changing face of the employment landscape, trends in 2015 for employment. This is what she said on SiriusXM Canada Talks. We are back and speaking with Tracey Wilen, who has written the book Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. And Tracey, as we move forward here, I think it's time that we touch on things like the changes regarding work and society, the things that we are experiencing. I noticed that you mentioned that people, for example, people are not using their vacation time.
That's right. We've, people say, well, I don't use my vacation time, I don't spend enough time with my kids, and I don't get enough sleep. And as a result of that, we have now become an on-demand society. Demand services have been created to offload some of this lack of sleep, so to speak, or lack of time. If you think about it, we get our music on demand, we get our shopping on demand, we get our groceries on demand, we get our food trucks on demand, and we even get our dates on demand thanks to Match.com and Tinder. So basically, this is what I would call a societal trend that has created new jobs, new services, because in order for you to get same-day or next-day delivery, well, you need people to work in warehouses, logistics, call centers, online chat rooms, retail, marketing, customer service, new apps, new, ideas. And this is something that didn't exist years ago. I mean, we now are demanding to have things dropped in our lap, and before we were willing to sit in traffic, wait on long lines, but no more. We really want to have everything now.
The other thing you like is the sharing economy in terms of your career predictions.
I think this is another societal trend. Why buy when you can share? Think about it, a house. Well, if I own a house, I can rent out rooms using Airbnb. I have a car, I can share it. I can become an Uber driver or Lyft driver, and many people are doing that today. And in fact, they're becoming the family chauffeurs. Why do I need to trot people around in my car when I can just have Uber come pick us up? We're sharing bikes, we're sharing clouds, and this year I even shared a Christmas tree. So sharing has created new opportunities for people, whether they're developing the services or products, or we need to have people who understand the laws around sharing,
Yes.
So I think this is a new trend that didn't exist in the past.
In some ways, I see the sharing trend as a really positive thing. In other ways, though, sometimes I take a moment and think about in that crossover time as these things are developing. It's almost as though many of us are not taking advantage of that break that is designed to give us. In fact, we are working so hard to develop the sharing that we're working when we should be taking advantage of the break.
Well, I thought the most fascinating was how women were saying that they looked at this Uber and said, why am I carting around my kid? I could be carting around many kids, right, and making money as an Uber driver in between. Or I could let someone else drive my kids, right, and take them around and buy back some missing time. So I see people looking at the sharing going, if the efficiency is there, it's all about efficiency. If the cost is low enough, people will start to say, that's going to save me a lot of time and a lot of money. So I think sharing is something that can be quite interesting, particularly if you're in cities or major metro areas.
Absolutely. Now, Tracey, you do have some sectors that you think are hot, and one of them is food.
Well, food to me, everybody's got to eat, right? But what's interesting is that food keeps reinventing itself, and just through that reinvention, it creates jobs and new trends. I mean, think about it. I grew up on meat and potatoes, and maybe Burger King and McDonald's was a fast food. And now we have organic food, which is a $63 billion business. We have gluten-free food. We have vegetarian. We know big words now like quinoa, we eat kale, we like Greek yogurt, and the food trends just keep reinventing and creating opportunities. We went from farm to fork to farmers market, and now farmers are creating restaurants in cities. And so this is, to me, again, opportunities, whether it's you're a chef and you want to participate in the on-demand delivery of gourmet food,
Right.
which is becoming very popular, to packaging cupcakes or popcorn, or working in many of the food services. So I think food is quite exciting, and that will always continue.
Well, it's also, I have found, at least through the many, it's a self-promoting thing in that the television has taken on food as entertainment. And as a result, speaking as a consumer, what have I done? I've gone and bought more books. I've bought more gadgets for my kitchen, and I've bought more ingredients to purchase things, to create things with. It's built almost a new, bigger, better economy surrounding food.
Yes, I mean, it just perpetuates other adjacent industries as well. And I think it's quite exciting because food was, a staple and sort of bland, and now it's pretty exciting.
It is.
Well, when you look at all the cooking shows, it just gives you an idea of where people's heads are at and where their interest lies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I also like the shows because they show people how if you are a cook or a chef and you want to either go into a restaurant or package your favorite recipe, that you're getting a lot of how-tos at the same time.
Right. Well, very topical, certainly today. One of your other big picks for a growth trend, a sector, is security.
Yes, and I say that sadly, I see security as a safe bet. It's in the news every day, whether it's hacking. All of the big firms are concerned, right, in the U.S., the Pentagon, right? So hacking, we need people who can understand how to, avoid hacking, combat botnets, forensics. Number two is physical security and protection. Whether it's elementary schools, events, marathons, power supplies, water supplies, physical security, I think is a big growth area. And number three, terrorism. And I think that's really sad because I was looking at the job openings for terrorism, and the list is very long.
Wow.
Everything from undercover agents to forensic data analysts to cryptographers to bomb detection, nuclear experts. This did not exist years ago, and it's sad. But when you see a big trend that's in the news every day, what should also pop in your head is, are there jobs associated with that, and should I pay attention to it?
Well, according to The Guardian, this is alarming. Global terrorist attacks increased 43% since 2013.
That's right. And
I mean,
so that's why you say pay attention,
Yep.
because you have to protect against it. It's a reality, and we need people. We need smart people. You need people of all types of capabilities, whether it's physical capabilities, mental capabilities, intelligence capabilities, computer capabilities. There's a whole industry right there that's dying for people.
And of course, we can't ignore all of us boomers
Well-
because we're aging and we need healthcare and everything surrounding that.
I look at the boomers in two ways. I say that there are the active boomers, and then there's the inactive boomers. And the active boomers are the ones who are proactively looking at preventative care, driving things like wearable technology, right? How can I self-monitor my own health so that I can stay out of the hospital or stay out of the doctor's office? And then we have the inactive, which is, the older people who aren't active, who are starting to say, you know what? I don't want to go to an old age home. I actually want to stay home, and I want to bring in healthcare services such as occupational therapists or physical therapists or nurses or aides. And in fact, I just met a physician who said now he's going back to doing house calls because the demand is so high from boomers saying, I don't want to go to a home. I want you to come to my home. So I think there's, boomers are driving new areas in healthcare, not just the traditional ones.
But are you also seeing an increase generally in the number of jobs in that sector?
Well, healthcare has always been projected as big and an opportunity because there are shortages in so many countries and so many parts of our nations. So one opportunity That's in very high demand. I was talking to people who actually have what you call traveling nurses. Very interesting. They don't travel. There's shortages in different countries or different cities, and a nurse if you're living in one city, you may not have a job, but if you can take a project in another city for 6 months to a year, you can actually make quite a lucrative career out of it. So traveling nurses is on the rise, people who are willing to take their expertise and bring it to an area where there's a shortage.
Wow. And the healthcare industry, this is one area. We look at many, many other industries where, to a large degree, they can almost eliminate a human presence with very few exceptions. But healthcare, I do believe, while there are many technologies coming in, I personally cannot imagine a time where we will not need a large human component to actually make healthcare work.
There's different, healthcare's exciting because I think the technology will help us reduce disease. It will help us enhance things like, prosthetics and different things in surgery. But at the same time, you do need people who can think through and, operate these technologies, create the new services, create new products. So it is one of those human and machine working together.
Yeah, and dealing one-on-one with patients. You'll never get rid of that. Finally, we want to, before we have to let you go, touch on the one here, which is STEM jobs.
STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. If you have the willingness and the wherewithal, I always encourage kids to start looking at technology, whether it's big data, biological research, robotics, cloud computing. This is where the jobs are in the future. This is where the shortages are, and this is where you can make some money.
This is, I'm looking at some of your stats. The Gartner Group says that big data will create 4.4 million IT jobs.
That's right. You have to remember that technology is the future. By 2020, over 75% of jobs will have a technology component, whether it's big data, robotics, cloud computing.
Wow.
Drones, as we talked about it's going to continue to grow. So if you can get yourself involved, that would be a space.
Well, it sounds like for people like me who have young people at home, my daughters are 16 and almost 19, so they are on the verge of entering the workforce, and a book like this is a great read. The book, Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. Tracey Wilen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is What She Said on Canada Talk Sirius XM. There is much more still to come, so stay with us because we will be right back.